Have you ever been driving down the highway and thought to yourself, wow, this asphalt and concrete looks, yeah, me neither. And that is why I'll be talking. My topic will be covering how it will benefit the world economically and environmentally to make public transportation the main mode of convoy for most citizens. This is because infrastructure is required to be upheld a lot and is very expensive and usually, honestly, not even upheld to its standards. And personal vehicles are bad for the environment as well as your time. And I feel like this is a topic that hits us hard, especially in Southern California. Our highways are absolutely jam packed with cars, whether it be the 405 North, 405 South, the one, um, the 101 coming, especially going down into San Fernando Valley. It's horrible. And what would make that better is public transportation. So considering the infrastructure of the United States, as well as our personal but limited time, we must discuss the problems and causes and solutions to small capacity automobiles and their negative impacts on the environment and our commute time. So let's begin with the issues themselves. The first problem is that small capacity automobiles are really, really bad for the environment. How bad for the environment? Well, let me show you their ecological footprint. The United States Department of Energy states that highway vehicles release 1.4 billion tons of greenhouse gases, mostly in the form of CO2. Now, we don't really have a number to compare this to, so let's compare it to this so you can understand just how big that number is. The EPA states that the total amount of greenhouse gases released by the United States in 2021 was 6.3 billion tons, meaning that highway vehicles alone make up 22.2% of greenhouse emissions in the United States. That is a very large impact from one factor of many sources of pollution, and one that we should most definitely look at closely and I don't want to say panic, but we should worry about it because our atmosphere, our water, our oceans, our earth is going to be around longer than corporate profits will be. So I feel like we should prioritize those first, correct? Now, the second problem with small capacity automobiles is that commute time is heavily impacted in a negative way. A New York study, in a New York study, 15-minute shorter commute time corresponded with 25% more of the sample population taking rail service. And what this means is that public transportation is able to get people to their destination more efficiently and obtain using less space per person because because we're able to put people together and put them on a straight path to where they need to go. If you've ever been in San Fernando Valley, you can look at the bus stations and how the bus has to move throughout the valley. They don't take the regular roads; they have designated lanes for them, which makes travel with them extremely easy. And so, because majority of people live in urban areas like New York, San Francisco, LA, Sacramento, these types of places, we should take this issue seriously. Now, we've discussed the issues. Now I feel it's important that we talk about why these issues occurred. So the first cause that makes gasoline cars as bad as they are is because, well, you guessed it, the gasoline engines which run these cars. The Energy Information Administration claims that 90% of vehicles on US roads today are gas powered. Now, with gas powered vehicles being more cheaper and much more common in dealerships and advertisement than electric vehicles are, it's understandable as to why. And I we shouldn't expect any change very soon because of the price difference between electric and gasoline. However, the price and rarity difference does make a very large disparity in between these two cars types of cars volume on the road. Um, Electric cars are definitely rising in popularity. As we see in California, there's Teslas absolutely everywhere, but it's not fast enough to have a big enough impact on the statistics or the environment. So now let's look at the second cause of the issue. Excuse me. So when it comes to commute time, the National Academy claims that 89% of trips in the United States are taken by car, which comes out to 44.5 car trips per public transportation trip. So what that means, let me explain that statistic. What that means is that for every one person taking a public transport trip, whether it be train or bus, there's 44.5 people uh, taking a car, a personal vehicle. Now let's compare that to Germany's time of 3.1 car rides per public transport. This is a huge disparity, and Germany has significantly shorter commute times, and I feel like this is a big factor in that. So, um, with that, combined with the lack of public transport being utilized in the United States, I feel as if this is one of the causes of this issue of public transport. Now, with all the negativity out of the way, let's talk about the solutions for these issues. The first solution would be to increase electric car usage. Now, the way I feel this would be most effective is through legislator on a state level. Um, Gavin Newsom actually thought about this. He's proposed a bill in which was passed and said that by 2035, all 100% of vehicles in California will have to be, sold in California will have to be electric. So what that means is that gas vehicles will be okay to be driven, but they cannot be sold. And I understand this kind of seems ridiculous and it does seem very strict, but that is the type of precaution we need right now because this issue cannot be extended any further, or else negativity is just going to rise and climate change is going to get worse and all of that. So, the way we can have a better impact on that and assist Newsom with this is that and it's very easier now than 20 years ago. Is with modern technology, you can mail in ballots, vote for people like Newsom, vote for representatives that have these ideals and want to have a better impact on the environment, and you can help out. Now, the second solution would just be to simply build more railroads, more bus stations, expand public transport in urban cities, and especially in suburbs and even countrysides, because that is where they are needed the most, and that is where they will prove to be most efficient. Forbes states that a factor of the lack of railroads is extreme expenses which come with them when acquiring new land, which is too expensive. Now, what we can do is turn to government legislation again and vote for representatives and congresspeople who are in favor of using our tax dollars on infrastructure improvements and not things like the military and stuff that is important but not as pressing. So let's wrap this up. The impact which cars have on the environment as well as our own commute time has made it apparent and cause for impacts such as poor infrastructure and lack of electric vehicles gives an answer to why these are such issues. It is within our generation's hands to change the seats of Congress, put in citizens who are driven by an ecologically friendly nations and government, and make the right decisions for us and our environment and the world. As ironic as this sounds, you have the biggest choice in which world we will grow old in because of your vote. Thank you very much.